podcast from Joanna Mike I think it's really cool, and that is what I wanted to say.
Two and a mic. We had to take down our previous podcast because Tanja didn't feel comfortable mainly discussing what other people's actions and opinions were, but more importantly because she didn't feel that she covered all of the elements that she wanted to, and that for the sake of her argument, her thoughts remained somewhat incomplete. In this session, we cover the time differential between our previous podcast and this one, and so many other wonderful topics. As I don't know how to introduce them all, I won't. So therefore I'll simply say enjoy, I hope, and thanks Tanja for joining me. Tanja, it's wonderful to have you back. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's wonderful to have you back, Tanja.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been longer for others than it has for us because we had a sort of secret podcast session which we then removed, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Yeah, what have you been up to? It's been months.
Yeah, it has been months. We talked the last time in March, actually. So it's like it seems ages because we did the last 9 podcasts like every few weeks. So yeah, it seems like been ages. I've been I'd say in general fine, up and down. The end of the winter and the beginning of spring is always a very tricky season to me, and it had been like that last year, and I felt it very strongly this year. But I'm through.
Okay.
So, and now we are in the middle of summer, which is amazing. I've been a bit around. I've been to Italy in May, and I will go back to Italy this week for some summer holidays.
Can't believe it.
Yes, go back. Yeah, I can't wait. It's I'm looking very much forward. Yeah, so many things happened. Many things.
And some things happened twice, apparently.
Some things happened twice, like
your corona.
Yeah. I already forgot. You know, the last time I had corona is already 3 weeks ago. So
old news.
Yeah. Yes. It's amazing. In the last 3 months, I had COVID twice. I mean, it sucks big time, but yeah, it was like that. Yeah.
Was it the same, or was it like one time was worse than the other?
Not at all, and it's actually a very funny story, and also a very like kind of a sad story. The first time I had it was very strong, so I didn't have a voice actually for 5 weeks. Like I literally lost my voice.
That was corona. I thought you would. I thought you like had sort of singing lessons gone wrong. Okay, that was.
No. That was COVID, and I don't know what happened. Somehow my voice said no, like no, and many of my friends, when I sent them voice messages, they were like, who the hell are you, Tanja? If your name would not appear in my, in my messenger or whatever, then I wouldn't believe that's you. I was really, and it took more than a month for my voice to get back. It was a little bit me trying to get my voice back with a carrot, like come. So it's good that we didn't plan a podcast in that month, because that would not been possible. And then the second time I had COVID was without any symptom at all, like none. And the only reason why I know that I had COVID a second time is that I was invited to a wedding of a longtime friend of mine, and the couple asked every guest to please do a PCR test. Do you say that in English? PCR test?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, well, that one, like that, not the
hardcore one.
the hardcore deep down test.
Yeah, or deep up, depending on.
Yeah, exactly. That one, just to be on the safe side. And I did that, and for me was like, like let's do that, like put it on my agenda just to check it off. And then I was in front of my computer to check the result, and then there was like positive, and I was like, what? No, it's a mistake. Like I was 100%, 120% sure that's a mistake, because I was like fine, more than fine in that period. And then I did a second test, like of this deep down, deep up test, and it was as well positive. It was still positive.
It sounds so much better than PCR, isn't it? Or did you do your deep down, deep up test?
Deep down, deep up sounds. Yeah, it gives you a lot of creative space, though.
Absolutely. We should speak to the Corona branding agency and talk about this.
So I was positive about COVID, but I was negative with regard to participating in the wedding. So I didn't go to the wedding. Yeah, she was sad, but okay. So
but they managed clearly.
They managed. Yeah, they managed. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame, Tanja, really. And I'm almost tempted to play to record a little clip of one of your voice messages, just so that people can kind of compare it. Is that okay? I mean, do you mind if is that okay to do? As in,
you're serious about that? Yeah, you're okay. Sure, you can.
Yeah, I'll put it in here.
Yeah.
Hi, Zach. Thanks for your message. Yes, it's me that minus my voice.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll put it in there. Now that I've said I'll put it in here, I'll put it in there, as in where I just said it. And then people will hear that and they'll be able to compare.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But did you have COVID?
No, as in at no point have I tested positive to COVID, but I have a feeling that I had it because I had an entire week where I had a headache for every day. I was extremely tired for no reason. I had no energy. I was completely demotivated. I couldn't do anything. I mean, I worked, but I was just, I couldn't run. I could just about walk. But every day I tested negative, and yeah, but as in.
But with this Schnelltest, with this
with the rubbish. Yeah, I mean, I went to the doctor, and the doctor gave me a test, and I'll tell you, she went so far up my nose, I almost could lick her elbow. And it was, I had to grab her arm and pull it out because, come on here, you've lost 3 knuckles. But it felt really uncomfortable. But that was, that was negative as well. So. Yeah. Anyway.
So I think I did it all. I mean, I'm vaccinated, I'm boosted. I had it now twice, so leave me alone with it, okay. So okay. So and I know it's not the most probably not the last time I had it, so it's going to be like a flu. So that is actually at least what I think so. Will come and go and
Yeah. I mean, just out of pure curiosity, because none of this is necessarily a big topic in our chat today. But I mean, do you? Because I still wear the mask definitely when I'm on public transport, because the rules in Berlin are that you still have to wear them on public transport. But even when I go into a shop or a supermarket, I wear a mask. I feel uncomfortable when somebody without a mask invades my private space. How do you feel about that?
No, I only wear the mask when I have to, and that is in the public transport, which I use a lot. I mean, I've been to Berlin last week, so I used public transport in Berlin. I took the ICE to Berlin and back. So if the rules are you wear a mask, I do. But if I don't have to, I don't use the mask anymore when I go to the supermarket. Nothing. And I don't. It is interesting what you said about invading. Hang on, I have to drink something.
That's okay. Me too.
Cheers. So it's interesting that you're not the first one stating that you feel like people are invading your private sphere. Let's say when you meet somebody without a mask, like in a shop or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing is, I mean, I've never really had an issue with this concept of private space, and this is my zone. You know, I'm familiar with it because of basketball, because when you're defending, you've got your space and blah blah blah. Let's not get all tactical, but for a woman in public, women have always been aware of their private space, haven't they?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
It's a completely different thing, people would say. But for me, I feel through Corona, I have a small percentage of an understanding of what women mean when they talk about my private space.
So how do you feel when you're then, for example, in a public transport and you have people who are not wearing a mask, or you have somebody sitting opposite of you or next to you without a mask?
Yeah, I kind of try to breathe in the other direction, as stupid as it is, because it's not quite how it works. Air doesn't work in straight lines, I don't believe. But I mean, in like a sort of supermarket situation, if I'm standing there and somebody without a mask reaches across me to grab a gherkin, for example, or something like that, on the train, they just sort of breeze past me and they put their face right in my ear or whatever. Yeah, that I feel is like an invasion of my private space. Absolute discomfort. I think it's the minimum I could describe it as being.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I mean, things did change actually within the last 2 years. I mean, I am much more aware when people around me are coughing or niesen, hachi, if you sneeze, yes, sneezing when they sneeze, or that, yes. Then I'm like, oh my God, put a mask on, or
I was just thinking, because if they sneeze with a mask on, you're like, oh my God, and if they but if they sneeze with a mask on, you think, ew.
No, when they sneeze with a mask on, I don't give a thing because that's in their face.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, can you imagine it?
Yeah, otherwise I don't focus on it anymore. But maybe also because as we discussed also in previous podcasts, I really started with the dancing again, like not started, but with social dancing last year in spring. So saying this, it's also not a miracle, but I was also surprised that I caught COVID only like a year later. Because since the beginning of this year, I was also dancing on indoor socials again. And I mean, you are near to each other. And
you said it's quite an intimate dance, no?
Yeah, it is. Yes. Yeah, okay. I mean, bachata is an intimate dance, but also dancing in general, like if you dance salsa or whatever, it's like you are near, like it's less than half a meter and you come close and so maybe because of that I how do you say that? I took my space back, my private space back somehow. Yeah, maybe I have a little bit of different concept of because my private space is also that I decide who I want to have near and who I don't want to have near. When I dance, obviously I want this particular leader then to be near because we decided to dance with each other. But that is a different story if you are thrown in a public transport, for example. And then you have like many people around you and you're like, no, maybe I don't feel so comfortable.
Yeah. No, that's definitely how I feel as well. But yeah, it's interesting. In many ways it's eye-opening simply to be thrust into a situation which you don't normally feel or you haven't, actually had much experience in, and it's purely psychological. But yeah, that's how it is. Okay, we've spoken. We kind of mentioned that so theoretically this is our 11th podcast, but it's going to appear as like Tanja 10.
Yes.
But that's because our previous podcast I had to take down because you didn't like it, or
no, it's not
that you didn't like it. There was something else. Do you want to tell us what it was?
Yeah. Do you want to tell what we talked about, like for the audience? What was it about?
Yeah, so one of the main topics was basically this is just following the Oscars, and Will Smith had, in defense of his wife, had gone on stage and had thrown a slap or something at, what's the guy's name? Something Rock, but I can't remember the host. Anyway, this individual, and so we were talking about this topic and whether or not it was right for Will Smith to do that in defense of his wife, or whether or not the person who'd made the silly joke or offensive joke had a certain share of the blame to shoulder. I think that was about it, right? That was the topic we were talking about.
Yeah, and actually I very much liked the podcast we did, and I like the conversation we had about this topic. But the reason why I asked you to take it out, to delete it, was because when I listened to it afterwards, I had the feeling that, and I can only explain it from like my point of view, from my side, that I didn't tackle every dimension I should have or I would have wanted. And that is simply because I'm fast. I'm like quick very often, but sometimes I am also very slow. So I need time for things to settle in. And I think this Oscar thing happened, and we had our appointment for the podcast like on the very same day. Like I read it, or we read it in the morning, and we had our appointment. We scheduled the podcast for the evening, something like that.
Yeah.
So for me, for example, what I do in the work context, what I started in the work context, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, is like when something happens which really pisses me off. Yeah, like, for example, standard situation back then is you get an email from a colleague or from somebody you have to deal with, you are dealing with in the context of work, and this person is rude, or the email is rude from the way it's written, like bold writing, red color, like, exclamation mark, something like this. Like, for example, that you feel this person is actually screaming to you, like in written, or even very subtle ways. You can be in very non-polite, impolite, also in a subtle way. And then what I did always is like, I take this email and I write everything I think in this very moment. And that is very often in the same language, in the same energy like what I received. So, and I take this all out, like all my anger, like, like you think you can talk like this to me, so eat this, And then I'm not sending this email, but I have a special folder in my Outlook where I put these emails, and I let it ripe, like I leave it there. I go to sleep, and after 1 or 2 days, I take this email out again, and then I rewrite it, because then after 1 or 2 days, I'm able to see clearer, to take my first emotions, the things which triggered me out, and focus on the issue, so that I'm not reacting on the way it was written, but on the, like, really on the work issue, So and then I send it. And so this ripening of my thoughts, which allows me to zoom out and to see more, at least that is how I feel it for myself. I didn't do this in the case of this Oscar thing, because I read it in the morning, and we did the podcast in the evening, and it was really nice to talk about it. And I mean, we were relaxed and chilled, and it was nice. I mean, I don't know. So it was a really good talk. But if we would have done this podcast 3 or 4 days later, or a week later, I think I would have highlighted also some other things. So for me, it felt incomplete, and that is why I just didn't want it to be there.
Yeah, it's a shame, because from exactly as you said, it was a cool talk, and I really enjoyed it myself. But yeah, I mean, the way things are, it's that we both have to be happy with the end result, or at least convinced that under the circumstances that was the best way that we had to represent our thoughts, on the subject. And for you, it wasn't the case, and so I had to take it down. And here we are doing number 10 again. But
how was it for you, Zach? I mean, did you take down another podcast episode before or after? I actually don't think so. And how was it for you? I mean, it's also a creative process, and it's also, I mean, the podcast is like your baby, and when somebody comes in and like, no, can you please delete it? I mean, the way you didn't discuss at all, you respected my wish, which was amazing. I'm really thankful for it, because I didn't have to explain anything. I've just said, like, I feel better if we delete it, and you did it like in an instant. But nevertheless, would be interesting for me, because I can imagine, even though you did it like in an instant, I can imagine that it wasn't easy. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was clearly I was disappointed that we had to take it down, but I mean, that's part of the agreement that we have, right? So I mean, I had said to you well at the beginning, because in our first podcast, if you remember, you were very much uncertain if you wanted to do this anyway.
Yeah.
And the agreement we had was that no questions asked. If you want me to remove it, then I will do so, and that's it. I feel that if I had not done so, it would not have been fair, because that's not the agreement that we had anyway. But then also, I'm not sure whether or not, even though we're friends, and you and Len are very good friends, of course, but that would have left a bad taste in the mouth. So I think, all things considered, regardless of my disappointment, I didn't have a choice in the matter. But yeah, I mean, Yeah, because I had another couple of podcasts as well at the time, which I had to work through, but we wanted this one to go out quite quickly because it was so time relevant to the Oscars. But it's one of those things, you are a professional in the job that you do. I'd like to think that I'm a professional in the job that I do, but this is something we do as a sort of hobby. It's a talk that we do, and so therefore it's not necessarily easy that we just switch on our minds and we are media people, or at least I'm not. I don't see myself as a media person, so therefore, this isn't really my professional job. As a result, if things aren't right, then we have to take it down and give ourselves a good opportunity of doing it right the next time.
Yeah, I like what you said about that we are no media people, because for me the podcast is also more like we are friends. We talk amongst friends, and we offer it to others to listen to it if they want to. And this is actually the charm about the podcast for me. That because you are like you are in the podcast, or offline when we talk, and I believe I'm not different than if we are online or offline. So yeah.
No, but that's cool. I mean, these things happen. So we've taken 10 steps forward now and 1 step back. That's not a problem at all. So I think our
that's the way you tango. Sorry, I had to throw this in.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know, but fair enough. Really? Is it that many steps? I didn't know.
No, it's not 10.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I was going to say, because then, Astor Piazzolla would have been extremely tired at the end of even one of his renditions. But yeah, indeed. Okay, but we've talked about one of your passions then, which is dancing. Yes. And also my baby, which is the podcast. What about your baby, Sensual Talk?
My baby Sensual Talk. I had only 2 Sensual Talks this year, one in January and one in March. So in April, in May, and even this month, I didn't organize a Sensual Talk. It has been gone quiet. Well,
it has gone quiet.
It has gone quiet. Not too bad. It has gone quiet around the Sensual Talk. Even though the last 2 talks were nice, they were really, really satisfying again, and the ladies were happy. I had very nice feedbacks, and actually, I mean, I'm not declaring them like that, but if you might remember that during COVID, I started the Sensual Private. Because we couldn't come together with a bunch of people. So I said, if somebody has a topic or wants to exchange, the lady could come over for a tea or whatever, or a drink or dinner, and we sit and talk. And this is something which is still happening. It's not that the particular ladies are declaring Tanja, can we have a Sensual Private? No, they're I have something I'd like to talk to you, and then we go out and we meet for a drink, and then it could be everything, job, life in general, whatever, and then it comes very often to the topic of femininity, sexuality, sensuality, etc. Yeah. So the last Sensual Talk with a bunch of ladies was in March, end of March, and then I had a couple, I'd say even 5 to 6, privates in the last 3 months since then. Yeah.
Okay, so it's gone quiet, perhaps on a public, on a broader scale, but but the movement has still been addressed with these private sessions.
Yes, because it's a topic that never dies, doesn't it? I mean,
Well, I mean, to be honest, with some of the stuff that are, developing around the world, the issue of femininity, the associated topics are they're actually increasing, in my opinion.
Yes, they do. I feel my anger coming up.
Yeah, sorry.
And I know when I'm just thinking of the U.S. Supreme Court. Yes, associated so much for associated issues. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with regards to this, Roe versus Wade. I mean, it's not the area of focus for us today, because we're going to talk about something slightly more positive, as it were. But yeah, it's great to hear that sensual talk, as in that this isn't. I know that you've been ill twice. You've obviously had a lot of work to catch up on as well. As in this is something we don't talk about very much, but you have a lot of responsibility in your job. And so therefore, if you are sick,
no, actually, I have less responsibility than I had before my sabbatical.
Oh, really? That's nice.
Yes. Because before I
I knew you were going to stop. I knew you were going to stop. Because you said, I'm not going to talk about work.
No, I'm not talking about. No, I just want
exactly.
I have my responsibilities and my duties, and this is really nice. And there things developed specifically in the last 3 to 4 months in the field of my work, which I haven't seen coming, but which is beautiful. And maybe in one of another podcasts we can also talk about that. I'll think about it, because that is something I could talk, or I would like to talk also and share it. But yeah, so no, that's just also a lot of handling of issues, because I am here in the region of Frankfurt. I have to go, or I'm going on a regular basis to Berlin also for work, and there had been a bit of movement, so I was quite busy.
No doubts about that at all.
Then summer started, good weather. I have to take care of my other baby, which is motorbike, and go out and ride the bike, and so there had been many things, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how do you say it in German, but I think I'm not a biker, but burning the rubber, blah blah blah. I mean, do you say that in German, or is it Italian?
I don't know, but I understand what you mean in English, English. I don't know.
What's the cool way of saying I'm going for a ride in German?
A cool way of saying, I really don't know. Like, I'm going for a ride.
Yeah.
I'd say I go for a ride.
Okay. In Italian, you would say vado a bruciare la gomma.
That's true. Yeah. I will. By the way, I will do this. I will bruciare la gomma with a scooter.
Okay.
I will not rent a scooter when I'm down there, which I do always in summer, and then rock the whole coastline with the Vespa. Yes. I have to, at least once. I have to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, coming on then to our main topic, which is quite funny because it's only taken us 32 minutes to get here. But
we are really media people.
You could say we have taken the scenic route.
Yes.
And here we are, jumping on your Vespa around the coast, and we finally reached our destination. So, if I say then conflict coaching, and then you can tell me exactly what that means, because I always considered it as conflict management or something like this, but this is completely different, isn't it? Or apparently.
For me, actually, yes. Okay, so the conflict coaching, the thing I told you is that I'm being trained to become a conflict coach. So I started my training 2 weeks ago. So we started with an entire week. It's a training course which will take 15 months. It starts with a week and it ends with a week in September next year. And in between, you have a couple of weekends where we get together and learn. And what is it about? So the structure of the course is basically in 3 different parts. Like during the first part, you learn a positive way of handling your own aggression. Like when you starting from, sometimes you are in a situation and you feel irritated, but you just go over it, you just push it away. And then after that, when you ignore it too long or it happens again and again, you get angry, And then actually, and it would be interesting to hear from your side. In German, it's irritation, and then it's ärgerlich would be anger, and then you have wütend, and then you have zornig, and that is an escalation. So what would be the words in English for that?
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, I can try to translate them one to one, but I think
like Irritation
anger,
is irritation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anger. Is frustration, and then anger, wouldn't it be? Because if you put anger as like part 2, then thereafter it's you're reaching sort of borderline hatred. No. That's not where we're coming to. So I would go in so frustration and then anger, and then beyond that, what would it be? Yeah, I'm not sure. Ire isn't to be irate. I don't know.
Okay.
Actually.
Well, it doesn't I just I'm trying to you. So.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that's cool. Feel free to do so. But I wouldn't know actually. I don't know. I'm sure there is a psychological term for it, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I had a look now. So Google says Zorn is anger.
Okay.
Wut is fury.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
And Ärger is also anger, which is interesting because in German you have the escalation, Irritation, Ärger, Wut, Zorn, and in English it would be irritation, anger, fury, anger. Like you have the same word. No, but
whereas I would rate fury beyond anger.
Beyond anger, no?
Yeah. So I would say then frustration, irritation, frustration, anger, fury in the order that they've presented then.
Irritation, frustration, anger, and fury. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Because I would imagine, I could be wrong here, but for me, fury is this incontrollable expression of something, and whereas anger can still be controlled, but fury is beyond that.
Yeah, that's when violence kicks in or could kick in. Easily.
Yeah, well, with some people, violence could kick in at irritation, couldn't it? But
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so this is, for example, like talking about this kind of definition, getting an understanding, and to understand specifically how is my anger management? Yeah, like what happens in my body? Like, for example, I did a training a couple of years ago. And I had to give a presentation, like we all had to give a little presentation. And at a certain point, the trainer, she looked at me and she was like, Tanja, you are really angry, aren't you? And I was like, yes. And then she was like, and why are you smiling? And that hit me really hard, and because she was right, and I could feel in this moment when she mentioned it, I could feel in my face that I was smile like that. I was at least trying to smile. So I was covering my anger, and all the other participants, they were nodding, and I was like, shit. And I've been never aware of that. And this is one of my ways of coping with my anger, like not to show it in specific situation, and it has to, so that is what I choose back then to do. And since somebody told me, I'm much more aware of that, and I want to believe that I stopped that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with people who, when they encounter difficult situations, they respond through humor.
Yeah.
So when they are placed under sort of intense personal pressure, they make a joke, and that's it. As in, that's the only way that they have to deal with it.
Yeah, but then the humor which you show in the situation, like my smile in that situation, is not a genuine humor or a positive one, or a positive smile which comes like from the middle of your stomach or of your heart, like it's not. It is a cover up.
Yeah, it's a shield.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
exactly. That like the thing you really want to do there is maybe to throw everything there and just leave or go or scream or I don't know what, like and that was really this feedback, this situation really had an effect on me. And I know where this comes from, like from my personal story, from my childhood, the way I've been raised and so on. So I can pinpoint it. So, and this is where actually I started to be very interested in like, okay, how do I handle aggression? Like when I am angry, me as Tanja, as a human being, but also me as Tanja as a woman, like, because I mean, you have this saying like, little girls, like at least, like in my generation, I would not want to talk about the current generation. It's the thing like girls, I was not allowed to be angry. That when I was as a kid, I was screaming and being angry. No, that's not what you do. And then, of course, the boys were not allowed to cry, So, I mean, seems like a story today, maybe, but that is I witnessed this, I heard parents telling their sons, you are a big boy, you should not cry, and the same to girls. So, we are socialized, like I've been socialized in a certain way and conditionalized in a certain way. And I'm, So it is really interesting to learn about how I handle certain emotions, and how I can become aware that these emotions are coming, because mostly we are not so like mindful or focused with ourselves that you only realize that you are angry when you are like really fucking angry, but you can see it coming. It's developing, it's coming. And then the other thing is that we all have a lot of, or let me talk about myself. Like I also have a lot of old anger in me, like within me. And sometimes, and maybe you know this as well, sometimes you are in a situation, you are triggered by something, and your reaction is totally disproportionate to what happened.
Yeah.
Somebody is saying something to you, and you are like, bam, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from the outside, it's like there's no proportion between what happened and the reaction. And this is because what happened triggered something old, an old experience, an old belief you have about yourself or similar situations. And to become aware of this in the situation, that is a game changer to me.
Mm.
And this is something I want to train, and I'm trying to train and to learn there, amongst other things.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, a thought that came to mind when I asked myself, have I ever actually really released my anger? Whenever I've been in a situation where I've felt this overwhelming explosion of frustration, of ire within me, fury, have I ever actually allowed that to come out? Have I ever just lost control? And I don't think I ever have, actually. I think I've always managed to find a way to put the lid on it. And I don't actually know if that's a good thing.
And I actually think it's not a good thing. Because, and this is something really nice, which I was able to see within the training, just within the first week we had together in the training, is that like the emotion, like aggression, is not like the connotation we have for aggression is negative, but you can also look at it from another point of view, because aggression is also vitality, Lebenskraft. It's a force of life. Like if every clear decision you are making, like if we have as emotions, we have sadness, we have anger, we have fear, and we have joy. Every time you are taking a decision, the underlying emotion is the emotion of anger, because it gives you clarity. Every time you say, yes, I want this. No, I don't want this. Every time you are taking a decision, also in other circumstances, then you have that there is this power of this feeling of anger or aggression, or I would not know exactly which terminology to use in English, actually. So, and this is a very interesting concept to look at it. And I'm familiar with that since a couple of years, and for me, I see it that way, actually.
I find that interesting because I imagine that's not the only thing that gives us clarity when we come to making decisions. I would like to think that also love gives a certain degree of clarity in making decisions, and also we're not talking here about, these are feelings, obviously, more than emotions. I guess there is a distinction in some way between them, but
I agree when you say that love helps you to make a decision. Maybe taking a decision and acting up on it are two different things. Like to become active, you need a certain kind of force, like power within you. Yeah, I go for this. I go for this decision.
Yeah, but I mean, also, but love of, for example, a concept, love of a people, love of a community, or an idea of community can also drive us towards action. How can I think? What's the best way? So, for example, when we actually undertake charitable work, it's a lot, sort of love of humanity. It's an affection that we may have towards fulfilling the needs of others. But you could also look at it from the other perspective, which is to say that that could also be motivated by anger, because you see people suffering and this generates anger within you, which perhaps is also connected to the love of people that you have. So I guess there are some complicated dynamics where they sort of swap over.
I feel in this moment, or I have the impression this moment, that it's quite difficult for me also to maybe explain what I want to say in English in this field, because for me this is like, I'm not saying that you take decisions out of anger or because you are angry. I'm talking about the power which is behind this emotion, and this power is something you need to do a step, like, and to, like, you can take a decision out of love, out of fear, out of sadness, out of whatever, but then to really realize it, to bring the boots on the ground, you know, like to
act upon it.
Act upon it. There you need a certain power. And I mean, I believe you also have been in situation, like I have been in situation for sure, where I said, okay, I really would like to do this out of love, out of whatever, but I didn't dare to. And this, to dare or not to dare, this feeling, this power, this force, this thing which spins you, like the thing which makes the difference. That is a power you can associate in a positive way with anger, yeah, with wut, with anger, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
you have
for me personally, this I like this concept. I can feel it within me. I like it. I like the idea. And even if I take decisions out of love, I cannot materialize them. I cannot act upon them without this Lebenskraft, without this vitality, you know. Yeah.
You did explain it well, yeah. As in, I wouldn't want you to think that the first time around you sort of misrepresented the concept. You presented it correctly, I believe, because I understood what you meant, and this is what gives you the energy in which you can actually carry out the things that you want to do.
Yeah, maybe that's the energy. Maybe that's a better wording in English. Like, it's the energy. Yeah, it's about, like, you have a lot of energy in the emotion of anger, and unfortunately we have a negative connotation of this. Me too. Very, very long time. I have seen so often the ugly face of anger, and it's really interesting to for me to understand more and more that there is also that this is actually, it's an emotion and it's energy, and the way, and that I can decide how I use it in a positive or in a negative way.
Yeah, no, I before I was just simply thinking about are there other dynamics from which action can be derived? And
sure.
Yeah, and this is why I considered perhaps love, because I believe love to be one of the most powerful feelings that a person can have, and if we do things for love, and we've so many people have touched upon this throughout sort of literature and so on.
But what I actually like, and what I will take out of this podcast into the next training session, is this thing you said about, like, love, like decisions out of love. Like, I will ask my trainers, and yeah, I'm curious. Because, I mean, I have my thoughts and my explanation on that, and I'm curious to see what they say. So I will take this with me, and then if you want, I can get back to you on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to hear. You know what it's like. There is no universal truth, in my opinion.
No, exactly. And you can only learn. And the thing I like is to see, like, if I'm struggling, if I get in a situation where I'm struggling to explain something, I do not feel. Actually, I don't feel anymore. I don't feel silly anymore, but I can see, like, okay, this is great. I don't know this. I want to look into it if I'm interested into it, if I consider it important. And for me, this is actually a really interesting thing. I will follow up on it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and let me know. It'll be I'd like to hear what their response is.
But maybe let me just explain one or two more things, because I said that the training is divided in 3 parts. So the first part is actually why, like, how does a person deal with aggression, anger, fury, how you can feel it in your body, how our emotions and body, like, how do they work together, what can I do to release exactly the thing you said before, that you have the feeling you never released it, like what can I do to release it, what can I do when I feel it coming. Then also there's the topic of auto aggression. So it's really like you look inside yourself. We look inside ourselves as trainees in this training. And then the second part is, how am I dealing with conflictive situations? Like if I have a discussion with whoever, a colleague, my partner, family member, friends, with a total stranger who is crossing my borders or whatever. So how can I handle this kinds of situation? But in order to handle this kind of situations, I have to know the first part. I have to know and be able to read my own signs, like to be aware that I'm now angry, because often we are also in a discussion. Like I said before, I'm in a presentation and I'm absolutely pissed, but I'm smiling, instead of letting it out. And then the third part is actually that we are being trained in mediating other conflicts, like conflicts between others. Like being the third person, not being involved in the conflict, but helping to resolve a conflict, or to sensitize those ones who are in a conflict. Yeah. So this is the structure of the training, and it's for me it's amazing. It's really great. And there's actually a reason why I'm mentioning it here in the podcast, because honestly, this is none of anybody else's business. Like that I do this training, that's my thing. And I am actually really private with these things, mostly until I finished them or completed them or used them. It's not that I do this and then I'm like sharing it with the whole world. But at the last day of this training week, the one of the trainers, she actually said, go out and share that you are doing this training, because it will help you in using the techniques you learn here. So, and then I was like, okay, good, then then I will share it within my family and with my colleagues and with my close friends. And then we had the idea of doing a podcast, and I was like, okay, I'm going to share it with the whole world as the whole world is listening to us. No, but that was the idea behind it. So I was like, yeah, it was quite a decision for me to share it here. Even if it, for some, it might be like, oh yeah, okay, so what? Not a big deal. No, for me, it's a nice thing, and I have the feeling that it will lead me to, how you say, new shores.
Yeah, of course. To new, you could say to new shores, but you can also say, along different paths,
Yes.
perhaps as well. But
Yeah.
I think the meaning is the same in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it whether, because you just said that's a personal thing. So this isn't through work. This is you yourself have decided to undertake this training.
I decided to undertake this training, but as this topic, like, I mean, I'm working in and on conflict, context, crisis, and violent conflict since over 15 years. So it's both.
Sure.
And it's a really nice thing that something. But I guess I was also in the past quite lucky, because I was mostly doing things I really wanted to do. I mean, you can't work in this field if you are not 120% behind what you do, like in many other jobs as well. But yeah, so I can only talk about this, like, from my perspective, for my job. So it is for both. It's for me and for what I'm doing to do it better, and also maybe to do it differently. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's an interesting topic, because in itself, every relationship has or reaches at some point a stress, a situation of stress. As in, that is the nature of relationships. We're a bit like atoms, aren't they? We sort of float around and then we bang against each other, and that's essentially human nature in a nutshell. So therefore, everybody has at some point either dealt with a conflict or has had to mediate in some way. And how do we do that? What are the tactics that we put to use? And the thing is, the podcast that we're doing is we're not necessarily laying down sort of specialist training and so on. It's the idea is to present a thought, to explain our own approaches or perspectives, and thereafter people can reflect upon it, or they could just say, yeah, cool, I listened to something, or they can maybe say, that's an interesting topic. I'd like to actually look at a course myself, or maybe just read a book on anger management or conflict coaching and so on. So I mean, there is a natural human element to all of the topics that we discuss, and I think that's what makes it interesting.
For me, this thing with this conflict training is a muster, a habit of mine that I observe since I'm a teenager, like that I do the things because I want to do them. Often I can't explain in the situation when I'm doing them why I want to do them, and I don't know how to use. Like, for example, I studied geography, and I wanted to study geography because I love geography. And throughout my entire studies at university, I didn't have a clue what to do, what to become once I have my university degree, because it's not a clearly framed job profile, like becoming a lawyer or an engineer or something. You are everything and nothing. That's what our mentors and university said. Like with a university degree in geography, you know everything and nothing. You know a bit of everything and you don't know anything in depth. Nice. So, but still and it's the same with this training and many other things I did in the past. Like I'm doing this training because I really like the content. I'm really fascinated about that. And I know I will learn a lot. What I am going to do with that later, I don't know, but it's not important now to me. It is not important for me now in June 2022 what I might do with this once I have the certificate in September 2023. You know.
Well, I have a feeling you're going to come and do a podcast and talk about it with me.
But if you invite me.
Yeah, there's a chance. There's a chance. Yeah. Just make sure you get the certificate, and then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then I come to Berlin and we will.
Yeah. We only qualified people on this podcast.
Okay, I'm not saying anything now which is just in my mouth. Okay.
No, please, no, wait. Yeah. But also just one last thing, because and we've already surpassed the hour mark, so I'm going to have to be really sort of frugal with my editing. Do you remember this movie called Fight Club?
Yes, I remember.
Well, I suppose it was a book, I believe, but anyway, it also was a movie. Yeah. So when I consider anger management, I always think about Fight Club, and I always had this feeling: was Fight Club the ultimate anger management situation or tool? How do you see that? Because I believe these kinds of things exist, that people, fight or engage in physical combat because it's that allows them to completely release their raw animal instincts. Do you think that's bullshit or?
Okay, I've seen Fight Club, but that is like decades ago. Yeah. So I don't remember. I can't recall like the entire movie, but releasing anger or the emotion of anger and fury through your body, this is absolutely for me. I mean, I know when I'm about to explode with aggression, then I go and do sports, and my anger management for many years was going for a run, to like really, let everything out of my body. And for example, within this training, we are not only talking and sitting, we are fighting as well. But in a safe environment, and we are also learning how to provide a safe environment and a tool so that you can, on the one hand side, let everything out. Like we were screaming, we were fighting with each other, to let it out, without hurting ourselves or others. So that is a very, very important point to this issue you were just raising. Absolutely, that to let it out, you have to let it out. You have to let these emotions out of your body, otherwise they will make you sick. Like you are building up pressure and building up and building up and building up, and then this happens, what I said before, then something tiny happens and you are exploding. And the reaction is not proportional to what happened.
But the key is to be able to express or release this anger in a situation where you are not going to harm others.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yourself.
Yeah.
And yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, all right, Tanja, it's amazing, isn't it? So we don't speak for months and months and months, and then boom, all of a sudden we can't keep within the time
Yes.
constraints of our normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the way it is. But yeah, it's great to have you come back and talk to me again, and I'm hopeful that this one will stay on. And cheeky,
That was
cheeky.
mean. I
I'm
think I'm
sorry.
irritated now. No.
I'm sorry. Oh,
No,
gosh.
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. It's always an entertaining chat with you, and yeah, I look forward to the next one.
Yes, me too. Thanks again for having me. Thanks for listening to everyone, and talk to you soon.